uncertainties, all uncertainties of tumah are decided according to the status at the time of their discovery. If they are found in a tummy state, they are deemed to have assumed to have been tummy, and if they are found in a tahor state, they are assumed to have been tahor. If they are found covered, they are assumed to have been covered. If they are found uncovered, they are assumed to have been uncovered. A meal was found full of rust or broken in a state of in tahor, and for all uncertainties of tumah are decided according to the status at the time of the discovery. Regarding a deaf person, a deranged person, or a mind, what happened? I lose you. I lost your face.
I'm still here. Carry
I'm not. What's going
on.
on? Come on.
I
There we
picture.
go.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Regarding a deaf person, deranged person, a minor who was found in an alleyway containing tumah, they are presumed to be tahor. But any lucid person is presumed tameh. For anything which does not have the intellect to be questioned, its uncertainties of tumah are tahor. Regarding a child who is found by the side of a cemetery and roses are in his hand, and there are no roses except at the side of the tumah, he is deemed tahor. For I say that another person picked them and gave them to him. And similarly, if a donkey is found between the graves, his harness is tahor.
Okay. Mishna ches. Tinok shenimtza b'tzad ha'isa. Now, contrast to the case that we just read now of the kid who's standing outside the cemetery with the lilies in his hand.
Right.
Now this one is standing next to the doe, and this child is presumed to be Tameh. Okay, presumed to be at least Tameh as a Rishon at the very least, because typically children get picked up by their mothers or whatever,
Right.
and their mothers go through nida. So as soon as the mother picks him up, that's he's going to become Tameh as a Rishon at least. Okay, and unless he goes to mikveh, he's not going to lose it. Okay, so the kid is standing next to the doe, and now you're worried, uh-oh, did the kid stick and he's got a clump of dough in his hands. Okay, circumstantial evidence here is overwhelming. Kid stuck his hand into the dough and pulled out a piece of dough. Okay, but Rabbi Meir says no. I could say that that somebody else came and who was tahor pulled out the piece of dough and gave it to the kid. The Chachamim disagree with Rabbi Meir over here. Even though they agreed on the case of the lilies, what's the difference now? Because this is what kids do. Oh, look, dough, stick hands in, boom. That's just normal child behavior, is that they're going to see a clump of dough and they're going to want to stick their hands into it. And as one who has brought up children, I'm sure you can relate to this.
Right. For
It's
sure.
not necessarily a thing for kids to walk into a place and pull out flowers. That's not. It's a lot more believable to say that somebody went and gave the flower to the kid.
Right.
Okay. But say ksheyesh bo nakiras tarnagolim. Now, what happens if you see a doe that's got pecking marks from a chicken? So clearly the chickens have been at the doe. Now, what's the problem? Chickens are typically tahor. I mean, when they're alive, they're tahor. So why have you got an issue other than the hygiene issues? Umashkin tamein b'soch, but there are tame liquids around the house. So now the concern is that the chickens went for a drink, and now they're dripping with some tame liquid, and they went and pecked in the dough. Okay. Im yesh bein mashkin lakikaros kadeshi nagvu espihem ba'aretz. If there's enough space between the liquid and the dough that the chickens would have dried their beaks on the ground, then you don't have to worry about it. But mashma that if the liquids are right next to the dough, then now you've got to suspect that maybe the dough has become tameh. And what about if it was a cow or a dog who was stuck? I mean, listen, my modern time sort of sensibilities would just say, if a cow has been eating from my dough, I don't want to know about it. I don't want no tau tame whatever.
Right.
But I guess you got to know if it's truma dough, you got to know, are you allowed to burn it or not?
Uh-huh.
Because if it's really tame, then you can burn it. But if it's not really tame, then okay, put it on your windowsill and leave it. Okay, with the cow or a dog, kadeshi lachachu es leshonam, enough time for them to to lick their tongues, basically swallow
Yeah.
so their saliva is not the tame part; it's the tame liquids that we're worried about. So
Yeah.
saliva is just fine. Okay,
Ah,
Ushar kol behemoth and any other creatures kadeshi is nageb, enough time for them to dry off. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov Matar Bekelev. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov has an interesting chiddush here. He says by the dog is smart. He says if the dog has got a choice between food and water, he's going to go straight for the food because he knows that food doesn't come around all that often. Water you can get anywhere. You can lick it up in the gutter. You can lick it up in the stream. You can lick it up anywhere. But food, that you go for straight away. So you'll always go to the food first, and therefore the food remains tahor. Okay. Next perek. Hazorek tuma mimakum lemakum. If a person is throwing something tame through the air, okay, we're going to work with different configurations of tuma. Let's just say when tuma either when tuma is thrown over something tahor, or when something tahor is thrown over something tame. So when what we're dealing with over here is, let's say, a key which became tame, and it's been thrown. So there were a couple of tame keys lying on the ground, and somebody threw a loaf over the keys. Or the other way around, there were a bunch of loaves lying around, and somebody threw a tame key, and we're not sure if the key touched the bread. If the key touched the bread has become tame. Okay. Now this typically would happen in a rishus yachid, and as we said yesterday, safek tuma b'rishus yachid we'd normally say is tame. But there's another issue over here, is that when you've got something that's moving and it doesn't have a makom. Okay. So in both these cases, the Chachamim say that since there's movement and we don't know for sure if anything settled on anywhere, we say it's tahor. However, Rabbi Yehuda says no. Kikar lebein hamaftechos is tameh. If the tumah had a fixed place, in other words, the keys were on the ground and you were throwing the loaf, the thing that had the fixed place is what's kovea, and therefore it's tameh. But the other way around, maftech lebein kikaros. If the tumah was moving and the tahara was stationary, then the thing that was stationary is the one that kovea, and therefore we say that this is tahor. Okay, and halacha follows the chachamim. All right, Mishnah base. Hasheretz b'fi achulda. You have a sheretz, a dead sheretz, which is of course the source of tumah, in the mouth of the weasel. So the weasel caught the lizard and is busy carrying it back to its lair. And now it runs over these loaves of truma. Okay, now Safek, did the dead sheretz, did its tail touch the truma as the weasel was running past? Okay, Safek naga, Safek lo naga, Sveiko tahor. Why? Because again you have a tuma mahaleches. The tuma is moving, and the weasel itself is not a source of tuma until it dies. Okay, so
right.
while it's alive, it's not a source of tumah, but the dead sheretz in its mouth is a source of tumah. And since the weasel is moving and it doesn't have, and the sheretz did not have a makom, therefore everyone agrees over here that this is considered tahor.
Okay. Easy enough. Okay. Aleph. There are 13 things concerning the carcass of a kosher bird. It needs intention. It does not need preparation. It conveys the tumor of foods in the volume of an egg. The volume of an olive conveys tumor in the esophagus. Someone who eats it needs the setting of the sun. One who's liable on its account for entering the temple. Tumor is burned on its account. Someone who eats a limb severed from it while it is alive receives 40 lashes. And slaughtering a malika render its trefa to be tahor. These are the words of Rameya. Rabbi Yehuda says they do not render tahor, and Rabbi Yossi says its slaughtering renders the tahor, but not its malika. The feathers in the down acquire tuma and convey tuma, but they do not combine. Rabbi Yismael says the small feathers combine. The beak and the claws acquire tuma and convey tuma and combine. Rabbi Yossi says even the tips of the wings and the tip of the tail combine, since these are left on fattened birds. The carcass of an unkosher bird needs intention and preparation. It conveys the tuma of foods in the volume of an egg, half the half loaves to qualify the person. It does not have the lure of the volume of an olive in the esophagus, and someone who eats it does not need the setting of the sun. One who is not liable on its account for entering the temple, but truma is burned on its account. Someone who eats a limb severed from it while it's alive does not receive 40 lashes. Its slaughter does not render it tahor. The large feathers and the small feathers acquire tuma and convey tuma and combine, and the beak and the claws acquire tuma, convey tuma, and combine. Okay, good. All right, we got we go base gimel. A cow born by cesarean section and a harlot's hire in exchange for a dog, it is invalid. Elias invalidates, where it is stated, you shall not bring a harlot's hire or the exchange for a dog to the house of Hashem, your God, and this does not come to the house of Hashem. All the blemishes which invalidate consecrated animals invalidate the cow. If one rode on it, leaned on it, hung from its tail, and crossed the river with it, folded the rope on it, placed a cloak on it, it's invalidated. If one tied it with a rope, made a shoe for it, so that it should not slip, spread its cloak on it on account of the flies, it is valid. This is the rule. Anything done for the cow's need, it is valid. For any other need, it's invalid. If a bird rested upon her, the cow is valid. If a bull mounted her, the cow is invalid. Rabbi Yehuda says if he mounted the male upon her, it is invalidated, but if the male mounted her on its own, it is valid. Okay.
I think one more.
No, I think that was three. We start with Gimel.
Okay, we want to do hay as well, yeah.
Oh yeah, I started with base Gimel though, didn't I?
That's right. We've done two.
Yes, you're right. Okay, sorry. It had two black and white hairs inside one pore. It's invalidated. Rabbi Yehuda says even inside one nose, even if they were inside two noses, they were aligned one with the other. It is invalidated. Rabbi Akiva says even four, even five, and they are scattered, you should pull them out. Rabbi Elias says even 50. Rabbi Yeshua says Ben Tohoros says even if there is one non-red hair on her head and one on her tail, she's invalidated. If it had two hairs whose roots were black and tips were red, or whose roots were red and whose tips were black, it all depends on what is visible. These are the words of Rameya, but the commentators say it depends on the root.
Okay. Caleb.
Okay. Tough guess. Concerning clothing of poor people, although they do not measure 3 finger breadths by 3 finger breadths, they can become tummy with midras tuma. Regarding a cloak that one began to tear, once a majority of the cloak is torn parts are no longer considered to be attached. Thick cloths and soft cloths are not subject to the law of 3 finger breadths by 3 finger breadths. A porter's cushion is susceptible to becoming tummy with midras tuma. A wine strainer is not subject to the tuma of a seat. The hairnet of an old woman is susceptible to becoming tummy with midras tuma. The shirt of a harlot that was fashioned like netting is not susceptible to tuma, and if one makes a garment out of a fishing net, it is tahor. But if he made it out of the net's bottom, it is tummy. Elias ben Yaakov also says, if one made a garment out of a fishing net and he doubled it, it is tummy. Concerning a hairnet, one began to make it from its trim, it remains tahor, but until one finishes the bottom. Then if one began from its bottom, it remains tahor until one finishes its rim. The fronted is tummy as well, but its strings are tummy because they are considered attached to it. Okay, and I'm sorry, I'm not finished. If a hairnet becomes torn, it cannot contain a majority of the hair. It is tahor. Okay,
that's it.
That's it. And Nachos. Valid bet. The bulls, the rams, and the lambs are not essential to one another's validity. Shimon says if they had many bulls but no libations, they should bring one bull with libations rather than offering all of them without libations. The bull, the rams, the lambs, and the goat are not essential to the validity of the bread, nor is the bread essential to their validity. The bread is essential to the validity of the lambs, but the lambs are not essential to the validity of the bread. These are the words of Rabbi Akiva.
Said Rabbi Shimon ben
I
Nanas.
got it. Reb said Shimon ben Nanas, not so. Rather, the lambs are essential to the validity of bread, while the bread is not essential to the validity of the lambs. But we find that when Israel was in the wilderness for 40 years, the lambs were offered without bread. Therefore, now too the lambs can be offered without bread. Said Reb Shimon, the halakha follows the words of Ben Nanas, but not for his reason. For whatever is mentioned in the book of Numbers is offered in the wilderness. And whatever is mentioned in Leviticus was not offered in the wilderness. Once they came to the land of Israel, both these and those were offered. Why then do I say the lamb should be offered without bread? Because the lambs render themselves permissible without bread, but the bread without the lambs has nothing to render it permissible. The Talmud offerings are not essential to the validity of the Musaf offerings, nor are the Musaf offerings essential to the validity of the Talmud offerings, nor are the Musaf offerings essential to each other's validity. If they did not offer a lamb in the morning, they should not nonetheless offer one in the afternoon. But Shimon says when they acted under constraint or unwittingly. However, if they acted intentionally and did not offer the lamb in the morning, they may not offer the one in the afternoon. If they did not burn the incense in the morning, they burn it in the afternoon. Rav Shimon says all of it was offered in the afternoon. The golden altar was dedicated only with the burning of the incense, and the Olah offering only with the Tamid of the morning, and the Shulchan only with the Lechem upon him on the Sabbath, and the menorah only with the 7 lamps in the afternoon.
Okay,
Okay,
that's it.
that was it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay, Nadarim.
Okay, Zion Dalit. Someone who makes a net of prohibiting a house is permitted the upper story. These are the words of Rebbeah. The comment, however, say the upper story is included in the term house. One who makes a net of prohibiting from the upper floor is permitted the house. One who makes a net of prohibiting a bed is permitted for footsole. These are the words of Rebbeah. The sages, however, say a footsole included in the term bed. One who makes a net of prohibiting a footsole is permitted the bed, and one who makes a net of prohibiting a city is permitted to enter the tomb of the city, but it's forbidden to enter the extension. But one who makes a net of prohibiting a house is forbidden from the door frame and inward. If a person say, "Call on these fruits to me," they may be called unto my mouth, or may they be called unto my mouth, where he is forbidden whatever is received in exchange for them, and whatever grows from them. With respect to my eating or respect to my tasting, he is permitted whatever is received in exchange for them, and whatever grows from them. If it is the thing that the seed decomposes, but for a thing whose seed does not decompose, even what is grown free from what is grown is forbidden. Okay.
Okay.
Shani. Stalin. If one says to his son, Master Shani is in that corner, and he found it in another corner, it's chulin. If there was a mana and he found 200, the serpent says chulin. 200 and he found a mana, all of it is Misa. Karam to Pravai is marked with the clods of earth, all it with clay and graved with lime, which may be dissolved and pours out. Reb Shimon ben Gamliel says, when does this apply? In the 7th year. The scrupulous put down money and say, whatever is gathered from this shall be redeemed with the money. Karen Ravai was brought up to Yerushalayim from the distance of a day's journey in any direction, and which were its limits? Elat in the south, Akravet in the north, Lod in the west, and Jordan in the east. Whether when the produce became plentiful, they decreed that it should be redeemed near the wall, and it was stipulated that whenever they wished, the procedure would be restored to its former state. But Yossi says this condition was made after the destruction of the temple, and the condition was that once the temple is rebuilt, the procedure would be returned to its former use.
Okay. Adkan.
Okay, great. Have a great day.
Later than normal.
See you next. Thank you. Bye.
Okay, bye.